And we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December 16th regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Carol, you're muted.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Present.
Councilman Lees,
Present.
Councilwoman Overby,
Here.
Councilman Bragman,
Here.
Supervisor Dan Scoia.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation,
Indivisible, and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. We have 3 public hearings today, followed by a public portion, and board members have resolutions to offer. But before we get started, I just want to give a very brief update on COVID. We are seeing numbers go up here locally. We've been testing at Town Hall here for most of the pandemic, and the numbers started to spike after the Delta variant showed up. Then they went back down in the early part of November, spiking again around Thanksgiving, reaching a high point of 8% positivity rate of those tested. That particular week, there were 368 people tested with an 8.15 positivity rate. Subsequent to that, the following week, it dropped to 5.6%, with even more folks being tested. We had 411 tested that week here at Town Hall. The last reporting period I have is from 12/5 through 12/11. There were 467 people tested and 47 positive. That's a 10% infection rate. As many now know, the governor's requested and actually mandated masks to be worn in any space where you're gathering with others, except for residential properties. We urge you to take these precautions and be compliant with them to reduce the spread through this holiday season. We have seen an uptick in the number of people wanting to be tested. We continue to give vaccinations here at Town Hall by appointment. There are dates still being scheduled. You need an appointment ahead of time: December 22nd, December 28th, January 5th, January 10th, January 19th, and January 24th. And the availability may change due to the number of folks wanting to sign up. So we have about 130 shots given per day at each of these clinics. We're going to continue this as needed. I ask for everybody's patience, particularly with the testing. We've seen a huge increase in the number of folks wanting to be tested. We are the only town in Suffolk County that provides free testing. We may also be the only town in Suffolk County that doesn't have a hospital within its borders. And this is for the safety and convenience of our residents, but we ask you please for your patience as everybody's trying to get tested leading up to the holidays. We have our town historian today with us, Hugh King. Welcome, Hugh.
Hi. Now, I asked you last time if you would to kind of list some of the topics that we've talked about this year, so then I can make my report to the state historian. I will make sure that I include that the town board has been actively researching local history and coming up with lots of new information that we haven't known yet. So, Councilwoman Gonzalez, were you able to put together some of your research topics?
You know what, Hugh, I misunderstood you. I thought you were putting that list together, so I don't have it today.
Okay. Can you get it to me when you get a chance?
No.
No? Okay. Merry Christmas.
Of course I
It's so
can.
refreshing.
This is
Wow.
Sometimes you
This is,
just want to say no.
the final exam. This is the final exam for the
Wow.
semester, right? Well, I just want to say, Hugh, that I put together a list, and it's not just my own topics. So if I could read those off, and then
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure there are some others that I didn't get that I might have missed. But we had discussions about the pandemic and similar circumstances from 1600 till now. That included the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918.
Yeah, right.
We talked about local historical societies.
Yeah.
Where they were and when they were founded. We talked about the town's windmills. We talked about Arthur Benson. We talked about Stephen Hand.
Oh, yeah, right.
Talked about past supervisors and mayors who served in both
Yeah.
capacities. We talked about veterans. We have a long history here of service by veterans. EH Village Incorporation, the East Hampton Village Incorporation back in 1920. Wainscott Railroad Station. Cattle driving to Montauk. We talked about old churches. We talked about the scoot train in Sag Harbor. We talked about Maidstone Inn. The Orchid Beauty Shop, great historian Hugh King.
You did?
And we talked about Austin Corbin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the other board members can fill in the gaps that I left.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. So I have on my list,
What
talking-
happened? Go ahead.
talking about Julia Gardner Tyler, a first lady.
Yeah.
Margaret Olivia Slocum, also known as Mrs. Russell Sage, and her connection to Sag Harbor and the philanthropy that she did in Sag Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
The Orchid Beauty Shop, I have that on my list. The history of number 1 Main Street, that building.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shipwrecks in Wainscott. The 100th anniversary of the East Hampton Historical Society,
Mm-hmm.
and how that got started and who was involved with that. And the Eastville Historical Society. So I think those were just my assignments that I worked on.
Okay. Great. We skipped Councilman Lease. Where is he? Is he there?
I'm here also, but I don't have a complete list, and I will get it to you. I know I did the Springs Historical Society. I discussed Carl Fisher. I discussed Second House.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what the lady's name from Sag Harbor was. I'll get that information to you. And veterans, which were most recently, Hugh.
Uh-huh.
But I got a completer list, and I'll email it off to you so you have.
Yeah. Now, you can't apologize for this because this is really my job and you're doing it.
That was pretty good that you arranged that.
Yeah. Well, I
Very
never
smart.
wrote these down as I should have written them down as I was giving them out. So now you're last, Councilman Bragman.
Yeah, I have some facts to add, but I have to note that I'm a graduating senior, so I think I have some dispensation on this homework assignment. I just wanted you to know that.
You're a rising senior? Is that what they call, or graduating?
Graduating senior.
Oh, all right.
We discussed veterans, and one of them was John Dayton in the Battle of the Creeks.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Corbin, that despicable man we discussed. The location of the Maidstone Inn. Some facts about LVIS on their 100th anniversary. I have where whales were caught off Amagansett. Not sure. I didn't have much note taking on that. I had a reference to Rufus King signing the Constitution. The location of a church from Freetown, St. Matthew's. Where is it now? That was East Hampton Point. The life of Joseph Fahey, very interesting entrepreneur out here. One of my favorites was a historic car dealer in the 50s in Amagansett. That was all those beautiful Studebakers that I remember.
Oh, yeah.
The history of Chez Leblat, a very elegant French restaurant. Sounds like it's a good time for them to come back. And I think that's about all I could garner going through the whole year.
That's plenty. That's plenty. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Look at it. It's amazing the things that we talked about this year. Thanks to you.
Hugh, I have one more that I just remembered. Lyman Beecher, Reverend Lyman Beecher, the father of Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Mhm. Okay. Now that this is the last meeting, right?
We have a work session on the 21st, but this is our last regular meeting. Yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, the highlight of the year for me, okay, and then I'll leave you, was at Stephen Hand's Path in January and in March. And what was going on there? All those people who volunteered for those 2 vaccination clinics at that time. And thanks to the efforts of the town board, that saved the day. And to me, that's the highlight of the year. And please, I know you're doing great work with this, but you have just made our life so much safer. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hugh. Our pleasure.
Okay.
And thanks for all you do for us,
I'll see you in January.
keeping us in touch with our history. We'll see you. Yeah, we'll see you in the new year.
And I'll be the one doing something for a change. How's that?
We look forward to receiving your report.
Yep.
Your historic report.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's incomplete until I get Councilwoman Gonzalez's report.
You got it.
You can give it to Joe as he's walking down to Main Beach.
All right, he'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Hugh.
Okay, have a good one.
We can move on now to public hearings. Carol, if you'd read the COVID notice and the first public hearing notice.
Please note that due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19, the town board is not expected to meet in person at the time of this hearing. Pursuant to New York law, Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, Part E, which authorizes, notwithstanding the provisions of Article 7 of the Public Officers Law to the contrary, political subdivisions to permit any public body to hold meetings remotely without public in-person access by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceedings, and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. This public hearing of the town board will be held via video conferencing with a transcript provided at a later date pursuant to such authority. The public can watch the public hearing live on local TV channel 22 and live from the public meetings link on the LTV website. If any interested members of the public would like to provide comments on this matter and financing thereof, comments can be called in during the meeting. The conference number for such purpose is 351-888-6331. Written comments and/or questions may also be submitted via email to the town clerk at the following email address: cbrennan@ehamptony.gov. Said comments and/or questions will be considered at the public hearing, provided that they are submitted by email no later than 9 a.m. on the day of the public hearing, or submitted via telephone by the way of the conference call number. A transcript will be prepared at the public hearing, and a copy shall be filed with the town clerk and placed upon the town's website. And additional comments will be accepted in writing by the town clerk by email or by mail to the town clerk at 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for further instructions for any changes to the instructions to access the public hearing. and for updated information. Take notice that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on pursuant to section 247 of the general municipal law and section 64E8 of the town law of the state of New York on December 16th at 11 a.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard to consider the following: the town's acquisition for the preservation of open space with community preservation funds of a property located at 495 East Lake Drive in Montauk, reputedly owned by Stephen and Alina DeVita, and consisting of approximately 1.7 acres of vacant upland and 1.2 acres of underwater land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $2,495,000 plus reasonable survey, title, prorated tax and recording charges, said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 300, 6, 2, 11, and 29, an amendment to the 2021 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include said property.
Thank you, Carol. Jason, do we have any callers on the line for the DeVita? Oh, we have Scott Wilson here. Yes, Scott, I'm sorry. Scott Wilson, if you would please give us a brief introduction.
Sure. Hopefully you can see on your screen, this is it's actually two parcels, one underwater land and one upland. You can see that they're highlighted in blue on the screen. Just below the properties are Star Island, and just to its right is actually the Montauk Airport. So as we know, the Lake Montauk is a compromised water body, and this property being right on the lake was one of the properties we reached out to during our Lake Montauk outreach in 2014. And for me, this is a bit of like deja vu from our Capizola public hearing a few weeks back, but 7+ years later, and we are still receiving responses from that outreach. Pretty amazing, I think. Much of the area of East Lake was developed prior to the institution of a natural resource special permit regulation, the Harbor Protection Overlay District, and prior to modern zoning. As such, this led to the filling of wetlands, non-conforming clearing, significant lot coverage, and structures in close proximity to tidal wetlands. This, of course, has partially led to the slow decline in water quality. The acquisition of vacant properties within the watershed provides an opportunity to reduce and mitigate some of these cumulative impacts by retaining and in some locations restoring the natural buffering potential of the undeveloped properties. This property is within the Critical Lands Protection Strategy, a scenic area of statewide significance. It's within a significant coastal fish and wildlife habitat and contains modest freshwater and tidal wetlands. This parcel certainly meets the criteria set forth in Town Law 64E. As such, I would ask the board to pass a resolution to acquire this property.
Thank you, Scott. Jason, if you could go to the phone lines and ask callers if they're here to comment on the DeVita hearing.
Thank you very much. I shall start unmuting now. Hello, let's see if they're going to unmute. Hello, caller ending. Hello, yes, you are on.
Hi, this is Cheryl Richer, and I'm calling as of the moment on behalf of myself and loosely
Cheryl,
on behalf of the Surfside Estates Association.
Cheryl, if you're not, Cheryl, if I could just, sorry to interrupt you, but if you're not calling for the DeVita public hearing,
sorry.
We'll put you on hold and get back to you. So Jason,
Fine.
if you could mark Cheryl's number as being for public comment.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Sorry, Cheryl. We'll get back to you shortly.
That's okay. Apologies.
Okay, moving on to the next. Hello, caller ending 3730. You are on the air. Hello.
I'm actually calling to comment on Chapter 173.
Thank you very much. Moving on to next caller. Hello, caller ending 7151. You are on the air, and are you calling for DeVita?
Hi, I'm also calling for the next one, Chapter 173.
Thank you very much. Hello, caller ending. Oh, we have quite a few. Hello, caller ending 6899. You are on the air.
Hi, yes, I'm calling for Chapter 173 as well. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, caller. Could you mute your TV in the background? And are you calling for DeVita?
If you're speaking to me, I can't be identified with a number here. I do not see a number. So when you say caller number blah, 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 makes no difference. No, I'm calling for the general comments.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Jason?
Yeah, I'm just working on muting that thing and moving on to the next. Sorry, I'm keeping notes. Caller ending 6450, you're on the air, and are you calling for DeVita?
No, also here for Chapter 173. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, caller ending 2832, you're on the air, and are you calling for... Oh, all right, here we go. All right, caller 2832, you're on the air.
I'm calling about a stop sign issue.
All right, let me just make sure I have that written down. Okay, and on to my last caller. Hello, caller ending 9396. You're on the air, and are you calling for DeVita?
I'm calling for Chapter 173.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you. Okay, so we have no one's calling for DeVita as of now, and it looks like most people are calling for public comment in 173.
Motion to close. Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Carol, if you read the next public hearing notice, please.
Notice is hereby given the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 16th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter this matter may be heard to consider comments of all persons regarding a local law adopting Chapter 173 entitled Monitoring of Groundwater Impacts from Composting, Mining, Mine Reclamation, and Mulch Production into the town code and abstract of which follows: a local law enacting regulations requiring groundwater monitoring for properties engaged in composting operations, mining, mine reclamation, and mulch production, and setting forth the requirements for the development of work plans for the monitoring of groundwater impacts and installation of monitoring wells based upon 6 CRR NY 363 4.42, as well as periodic reporting of testing of samples taken from such wells for certain analyses as set forth in the schedule adopted by the town board and modified from time to time by resolution of the town board as set forth in the approved work plan.
Thank you, Carol. We could go to
first callers.
Yeah, John, did you just want to give a brief overview as to the legislation?
I just ask first, is anybody in the waiting room, Jason, to come into the meeting?
I have Eric Arnson.
Oh, yes, he's the consultant.
Okay, I'll let him in.
I don't know if is Melissa here for that too?
Seen Melissa here, but I don't know if that's the purpose of her being here.
It's Kim Shaw. I'm working on Melissa's laptop.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Kim.
There we go. Mystery solved. So, I mean, basically, this is a requirement for certain enterprises to install and maintain groundwater sampling wells, so that we can have periodic sampling to see what the impacts of the operation of that enterprise are on the groundwater. That's kind of like the real short nutshell version, but I'll let Kim and Eric maybe explain a little more detail if they want to.
Thanks, John. I just I think that's probably sufficient at this point. It's good to have the consultant and natural resources director on the line in case there are any questions that come up. I know we had a number of callers, I think at least 4 that wanted to speak on this particular public hearing. So if we could go to the phone lines, Jason, and start hearing from the public on this matter.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start off with, oh, does somebody have a YouTube in the background? I'm hearing a quick reverb. Oh, it's over. Okay. All right. Let me just go and unmute. Oh, caller ending 3730. You're on the air.
Okay. Good afternoon, Supervisor Van Scoyac and Town of East Hampton board members. I'm Paul Charlo from the Charlo Law Firm in Syracuse, New York. I'm speaking on behalf of Patrick Bistrian III and his companies in the Town of East Hampton. I'm an environmental attorney, and I've represented Patrick for many years, helping him with his environmental compliance and environmental reviews for permitting for his sand mining operation, as well as his recycling operation in the Town of East Hampton. I've been practicing environmental law all over New York State for over 18 years. One of my areas of focus is helping clients perform the environmental review required by the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act when looking to get approval for a project. I was drawn to this area of practice because I've always had an affinity to science, and my undergraduate degree is in biology. So at the very early stages of project discussions, once I can confirm that a project meets all necessary legal requirements, I always stress the importance of first collecting and understanding the science. This is especially true on Long Island with the priority of protecting Long Island's sole source aquifer. I always preach that the only way to respond to concerns about a project's potential environmental impacts that are not backed up with science are with a very robust scientific evaluation. Now, the studies and analytical reviews that go into performing the necessary due diligence to provide a thorough environmental review can get very expensive. This is also true with regard to implementing environmental controls at these sites. I always recommend to clients that one of the most important things you can do is hire the very best environmental consultants to help design and prepare plans for mitigation of any potential environmental impacts. Over the many years of working for Patrick Bistrian III, he has never hesitated to take my recommendations and invest substantial time and finances in undertaking the necessary studies and collecting the science to ensure that the appropriate environmental controls are implemented at all of his operations. With regard to Patrick's mine site, Sand Highway, Patrick enlisted P.W. Grosser, one of the premier environmental consulting firms on Long Island. Chris Omskog from P.W. Grosser is going to speak shortly and will provide more detail on their experience on Long Island. I'm actually hoping maybe you'll unmute him next. His last 4 digits are 6899. But let me just tell you, I always appreciate P.W. Grosser's involvement because they are the experts that really understand Long Island's hydrogeology, and they can help us understand the true ramifications without speculation. P.W. Grosser advised the installation of a monitoring well network for the Sand Highway mine that thoroughly evaluates the underlying hydrogeology, the groundwater flow, and baselines, and it will continue to provide a robust monitoring plan for years to come. Chris is also going to get into more detail on that monitoring program in a minute. With regard to Patrick's recycling facility on Springs Road, P.W. Grosser evaluated site operations and conditions, and they advised controls for the site that go above and beyond controls that are currently being used at other similar, even larger facilities in the town of East Hampton. And like I said, Patrick does not even blink when recommendations are made. It'd be really easy for him to say, wait a minute, what about these other facilities? But Patrick has never hesitated to make significant investments. And as a result of this, Patrick's operations have become the model that DEC points to when recommending facility controls at other recycling facilities on Long Island. Now, turning to the groundwater monitoring law that you're proposing, clearly, based on what I've told you, we are not at all opposed to groundwater monitoring and implementing necessary controls to protect the groundwater. But this law is so misguided, it won't survive legal challenge. With regard to both mining and mulching facilities, the town simply doesn't have the statutory authority for such a broad, sweeping law. It's well known that the authority to regulate mining in New York State lies with the DEC. You've probably heard of the term supersession. Now, recently, due to concerns over Long Island's sole source aquifer, the state provided a very limited exception to the state supersession by granting Long Island towns the authority to require groundwater monitoring at mine sites. However, this authority is limited to just that, the ability for towns on Long Island to require groundwater monitoring. Your law also attempts to take that very limited authority that the state granted and apply it to mulching facilities, which are also permitted and regulated by the New York State DEC. The reason the state regulates both mining and recycling facilities is because they have the expertise to do so. This leads me to another area of the law that's very disconcerting, the analyte list. As I told you, we already monitor for groundwater at the Sand Highway site, but we monitor for contaminants that might have some relation to operations, and there are standards that DEC looks to in evaluating the monitoring results. Chris is going to discuss the inherent problems with your analyte list in detail, but it appears as though the town is attempting to turn mine sites into their general monitoring station. Now, DEC has worked with mine sites all over Long Island that are mining in the water table to require monitoring of the appropriate analytes. These sites have monitored and collected samples for many years. The state is now taking the evaluations at all of these mine sites a step further, and in conjunction with the State Department of Health, preparing an even more comprehensive study. Chris is going to discuss that groundwater study in a minute, but before I finish, I just want to reiterate a few important points. As you know, Patrick Bistrian III is part of multiple generations of Bistrians that have lived and worked in the area for decades, and they have a genuine desire to be good stewards of the environment and operate in an environmentally responsible manner. So we're not opposed to monitoring, collecting, and evaluating the sample results in order to continue to ensure that our operations are not having an impact on groundwater. I urge you to slow down on the passage of this law and look into the science that's already been collected by mine sites so that we can avoid unnecessary, expensive litigation. And we are more than happy to show you the mitigation measures that our recycling facilities are implementing. I also urge you to get involved in the state study that they are undertaking so that when it is complete, we can use the science to guide us in implementing any further or additional environmental controls. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and we'd be happy to see a list of analytes that you think would be appropriate for that type of operation.
Very good. We'd be happy to provide that for you, and I know Chris is going to talk about that in a little bit.
Thank you very much. And Jason, if you could go to the caller ending in 6899.
Yes, sir.
Next.
Hello, caller ending 6899. You're on the air.
Yes, this is Chris Armstrong. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Town Board and Supervisor, for having me. I understand, I understand the legislation and what you guys are looking to do.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name again? I had trouble hearing your name. Chris.
Sorry, Chris Almskog, A-L-M-S-K-O-G. I'm a professional geologist in the state of New York. I've been working in the field for over 25 years. I'm with the firm P.W. Grosser Consulting. We're located in Bohemia, New York. We have 30 plus years of experience, focusing on groundwater issues in and around Long Island. We have contracts currently and historically with Brookhaven Labs, Suffolk County Department of Health. We're on-call service providers and environmental consultants for multiple towns, including Islip, Brookhaven, Smithtown, Riverhead. We do get involved in numerous New York State DEC brownfield program cleanups, field program cleanups, federal EPA Superfund investigations cleanups, and we do have extensive experience with both Long Island and statewide mines for both sand and quarry materials. So I understand greatly how groundwater issues on Long Island are utmost importance. And I want to talk about a little bit about the industry and the fact that there are potentials, there are plenty of industries out there that have known histories impacting groundwater. What I'd like to get across is there has been hysteria the past few years about permitted mine sites and the potential that the impact that they could have on groundwater. I'll talk a little bit about the fact that there have been numerous studies, decades of groundwater monitoring throughout some facilities on Long Island, and so far it's been concluded that mining activities have absolutely no negative impact on groundwater. I think it's very important that people realize that permitted mine sites are very different than illegal mining and dumping facilities. So that's something that I think people should just realize and kind of break apart. Permitted mining under DEC is very heavily regulated. There's a lot of data, a lot of groundwater data that gets collected, submitted to DEC, and is there for the public record. So currently, the state DEC with the Department of Health are working on a Long Island groundwater mining study. They're basically taking some of the historic data that has been provided to them from a number of mines already, and they're expanding on that. The study is due to start in the next month. They were taking public comment over the past few months leading into the study to try and get it as robust as possible. So again, they're going to be taking a look at numerous mine sites on Long Island, looking at groundwater quality, doing it very uniform throughout the site. They have a parameter list that they're looking for that is based upon the potential impacts that could be seen, maybe from heavy equipment or other activities at some of these sites. Again, most of these sites, there's not industry going on. It's a lot of the sites were old farmlands or never had industry. So there's not really much that goes on as far as the shallow soils that there's already existing impact. But DEC is looking at doing some baseline and then bringing down the sample analyte list to see how and if groundwater is being impacted on the study. So I would, that's something I could share. I'll send links of the study over to the proposed study over to the town board so you could take a look. And one of the things I would advise is that, have some contact with DEC to talk about, the study even at greater length. But right now, I think it's going to be somewhere between 7 and 10 facilities that they're going to be looking at an in-depth, uniform procedures going into each sampling event at each facility. So everything's are being done apples to apples across the board, so they could compare the results over time. So that brings me to, I failed to mention, I'm sorry. I do represent Patrick Fistrian and his facility, East Hampton, in East Hampton, Sand Highway, and also Bistrian Materials. So Sand Highway is a DEC permitted sand mine. Basically, they excavate sand, they screen it into different sizes, and they load it and use it locally for local projects. There are no other activities that occur on that site. There is, no other industry. They're not bringing material into the site. It's purely a sand mine, and it's heavily regulated and permitted by DEC. There are numerous conditions that the client needs to adhere to, and there are also frequent visits by DEC, unannounced visits by DEC, inspections and audits that occur as well. So as part of the permitting process, there was an extensive groundwater monitoring well network installed several years before the permit application was even submitted. Those wells were sampled for numerous compounds. The data was shared with DEC, and the site continues to be sampled with a robust monitoring well network around the site that both looks at groundwater flow direction and groundwater quality at various shallow and deeper levels throughout the site. And again, that data is collected, sent to New York State Certified Lab, and then given to DEC on a regular basis. So all that data is available for the public, and so I kind of implore the board to talk to DEC if they have questions as well. They'd be very helpful about sharing it and discussing what actually occurs. So again, these facilities are heavily permitted. The Bistrian Materials site, which is a Part 360 recycling facility, they accept material where they basically vegetative organic materials for recycling. They make it into a usable product that then is sold locally. Again, it's another facility that is registered with New York State DEC. They get frequent inspections by DEC to see what's going on there. And as Paul was saying, the client has it has put a lot of money into continuous upgrades of the site, going above and beyond what other facilities on Long Island have done with their facilities. Some of the engineering controls that have been put into place include an engineered basically impervious pad through the site. So that's also pitched. The focus of that is so rainwater does not sit with the mulch piles. One of the concerns that DEC had in the past was for mulching facilities, if the piles sit in contact with water too long, the water chemistry of the rainwater changes. When that goes down into the sands below, it has the potential to leach out things like iron and manganese that are naturally occurring in the sands below, but because of the water chemistry, they could leach them out. So One of the things that's occurred at Fishery Materials was an engineering cap that's pitched, so the piles won't sit in any standing water. The pitch brings the water to basically a runoff retention area to capture the runoff, and then it could basically be field inspected before it does drain. Field inspected, looking at the quality. If need be, we can aerate the water to get the dissolved oxygen back in the water if it's an issue, before it then naturally percolates down into the aquifer. So the client on these, he spent a great deal of money kind of bringing the site up into adding these engineering controls, so it would be at the forefront of facilities on Long Island. And as Paul said, DEC randomly points to this facility as a role model for other facilities on Long Island, and even some of the design plans have been kind of shared, saying they might want to kind of upgrade to get closer to where Patrick Bistrian is with this facility, because it's really a role model project. So again, the client continually looks for ways to improve things at the site. Continually looks for ways to improve things at the site. Keep going. To kind of improve and make sure that any potential concerns about environmental impact, we take engineering steps and controls, put them in place to minimize any impact. Also, the site, it should be noted that the Patrick Bistrian site is much smaller compared to, the mulching site is small compared to the aggregate. They do process sand, gravel, and concrete on the site as well. So the mulching is a portion of the site, but they do other materials on the site. And the site is inspected, routinely by DEC. Some of the issues that, I understand the East Hampton legislation, I understand the intent. What I'd like the board to realize is that DEC is already kind of doing some of this material, some of this already, and they should take a look at the DEC study to see how it overlaps. Some of my concerns with the legislation, specifically, I'll hop on the analyte list. Currently, you're looking for about 328 analytes in your list. A lot of these have no relevancy to mining, vegetative recycling facilities, heavy equipment use. The other thing that should be noted, less than 70 of them have actually have groundwater standards associated with them. So what happens when people sample and there's no standard to hold it accountable to, it leads to confusion by the public and by regulators. I've had some discussions with Suffolk County Department of Health regarding this, and DEC. It's kind of akin to going to the doctor's office, getting blood work. They give you the results of the blood work, and then you ask, well, am I in range or not? And they can't answer that. So one of the concerns about sampling for a list like this, when there are no standards to compare to, is I don't know if there's anyone at the town or who can answer questions to the public saying, is this good, bad, healthy, unhealthy? So I would just ask the town kind of look at the list and think about that, and consult with Department of the DEC or Department of Health about the list and what some of those parameters, what's the rationale for some of those parameters, and does it make sense to sample for lists of parameters that have no standards to compare the results to. Also, I've reached out to numerous labs regarding the list, and I have not been able to find an analytical lab who can run this set of parameters. And I've reached out to some of the top 10 largest labs in the United States. The list of parameters is very large and extreme, and the range of it is such that most labs cannot handle it. It would have to be broken up, possibly sent to many specialty labs. So it's very burdensome. What I'm hearing is once you split it up, the cost per sample probably is going to be somewhere above $1,200 to $1,500 per water sample as well, if you can find the labs to do them. Again, what we want to try to avoid is sampling for parameters that there's no rationale and we can't explain to the public what it means. Is it naturally occurring? Is it too high? Is it too low? Is it within range? So, I'd ask that the town really follow up, consider the analyte list, consider the samples being requested, and also talk to DEC and the Department of Health about what's currently being done in this study. And I'd be happy to answer any questions later on, or I will send a link to the DEC study as well, and list their analytes as well, so the town could keep that under consideration. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Chris. Could we go back to the phone lines, Jason?
Absolutely. So I am unmuting. Let's give me a second. And hello, 6450. Did you want to talk about 173?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Supervisor Van Scoyac, Town Board members. My name is Bob DeLuca, and I serve as president of Group for the East End. For the record, I hold a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Environmental Science and have worked for 36 years as a land use and environmental assessment practitioner. And I'm here today on the group's behalf to speak in favor of the adoption of Chapter 173, which is going to provide additional oversight and necessary oversight on the monitoring of mines and materials management facilities, which have been documented to contaminate groundwater, and I'll get into that in a bit, and which follows the recommendations and findings of numerous groundwater investigations going back more than 5 years. There's many strengths to the proposed law, including a formal work plan, defined local oversight, a biannual groundwater monitoring and site access for town officials. There is a provision, as I read the law, that would allow certain analytes to be assessed over time, and you could determine which ones, if you need to change those analytes, you can do that. We're also strongly supportive of the law's meaningful enforcement provisions, which make it truly costly for materials management operations to break the rules. And with that said, I just want to make sure that the record of this hearing includes a brief overview of how we got here and why this law is needed. So in the most recent chapter in the groundwater protection story related to materials management, we go back to 2016 when the Suffolk County Department of Health Services issued findings based on an investigative report of a number of vegetative waste processing facilities in Suffolk County. It took over 233 groundwater samples from 11 sites located in the vicinity of these facilities, and they found elevated metals, manganese, cobalt, chromium, thallium, radionuclides, all at more than twice the level of most private wells in Suffolk County. In fact, significant or moderate groundwater impacts were documented in at least 8 of the 11 sites that the health department investigated. And I just ask you, as I read that to you, to think about this idea that somehow DEC is taking care of all of this. They are not. They don't have the people. They are not doing these inspections to the level of detail sufficient to protect groundwater, and the result is groundwater contamination. So we can talk all day about what DEC should do and how DEC should do it, but anybody, and I would guess most of you on that town board, recognize that this agency, particularly in this region, is not up to the challenge that's presented to them by the reality that we live in. Now let's go to 2018. Suffolk County Health Department issues a report on the site-specific investigation of a 50-acre sand mine that had co-located materials processing facilities in Noyak, the sand land mine. And they conclude that the facility had both mining and co-located waste processing operations for many years and was responsible for, quote, significant adverse impacts to groundwater. And in fact, those impacts to groundwater were found at over 150 feet of depth into the underlying aquifer, which is located in the Town Aquifer Protection Overlay District, a state-designated special groundwater protection area, and a critical environmental area because of its importance for water quality protection. And again, I point out to you, a state-designated special groundwater protection area you might think would draw the interest of DEC. The investigation's findings highlighted contamination associated with exceptionally high metal concentrations like manganese, over 100 times the drinking water standard, iron, 200 times the drinking water standard, thallium, nitrates and pesticides, nitrates double the current drinking water standard. And then we go to 2019. And in 2019, the results of a year-long Suffolk County grand jury investigation into illegal dumping and mining initiated based on evidence compiled during a countywide criminal investigation into illegal mining, dumping, and hauling schemes that was known as Operation Pay Dirt, resulted in a 130-count indictment against 39 defendants, all related to illegal materials management operations, processing, sales, and blending of hazardous materials including construction debris, with other soil and soil amenities, and then selling those materials to the public. Materials management facilities played a central role in this scheme, and as a result of a year-long grand jury investigation, and you can look up the report, specific recommendations for additional oversight of mines and materials management facilities was recommended. And that resulted in state enabling legislation, which finds us where we are today with this proposal. And so for all these reasons, we obviously offer our strong support for this proposal, and we thank East Hampton Town, as we have many times in the past, for its forward-looking efforts to protect our groundwater resources and remain in the forefront of environmental and groundwater protection. Now, let me just say this. I understand that what I'm saying does not apply to every single facility, and there are facilities that are well-run and there are facilities that are not well-run. But the problem is we do not have an adequate regulatory mechanism or structure to handle this outside of additional local authority. And I will tell you that if you look at the basis for the state study that was mentioned before by Mr. Bistrian's consultants, you'll find that they say that there is the potential for groundwater harm here. But one of the other things you'll find is that that study is a study of facilities that are volunteering to participate. Now, if I were a bad actor, there's a pretty good chance I wouldn't volunteer to participate. And the results of such study will have recommendations based only on facilities that chose to participate. That's not how you do adequate regulation over time. So at the end of the day, the state recognizes we got a problem. The county district attorney recognizes we have a problem, and a grand jury. The county health department recognizes we have a problem. And all of the, by the way, if you look at the Suffolk County grand jury report, you will find that they recommend additional local oversight, right? So if all of that points in the direction of local oversight, and that's what you're doing here, I would say you're heading in the right direction, and it doesn't mean you can't listen to people who may have something to offer and talk to the county health department a little bit more about your analyte list or what have you. But at the end of the day, we are not doing enough to protect a resource that, by the way, the town and the region has spent billions of dollars trying to protect. So there is a public interest in protecting groundwater, and frankly, had the agencies responsible been doing their job for the last 20 years, maybe we wouldn't have this problem, but we do. So I thank you very much for your time and patience in hearing my comments, and I do wish you a happy holiday season as best as you can have it, being town board members, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for your comments, Bob, and well wishes. Jason, if we could go to the next caller, please.
Doing that right now. And let me just go down the line I have. Okay. Hello, caller 9396. Did you want to talk on 173?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Will you please state your name so that way everyone can hear?
Supervisor Van Scoyac and Town Board. My name is Frank Rena, and my comments address the adoption of Chapter 173. Unlike New York City, which receives its drinking water from the pristine mountains of the Catskills, we on Long Island have our water resources below our feet, making groundwater particularly vulnerable to surface activities. Throughout Long Island, there are countless examples of groundwater contamination that resulted from adverse surface activities, including those related to sand mining, mulching, and composting. Sand mining excavation removes the natural filtering qualities offered by vegetation and soil, leaving in its wake an open scar that too frequently reaches groundwater and exposes it to nearby contaminants. Now, I'm going to sort of like dispute what the lawyers representing the Bistrians stated, that along Springs Fireplace Road, that's the largest industrial area in all of East Hampton. There are many industries and commercial activities in that area. That open sand mine that reaches groundwater is exposed to the influences of all of those activities. So when they want to limit the analyte testing, they're protecting themselves by doing that. They're not really looking at the inherent dangers associated with sand mining. Mulching and composting, although thought to be benign activities, often lead to contamination of groundwater when rain percolates through the organic pile and leaches into groundwater, causing a chemical reaction that leads to extremely high concentration of manganese and other metals that have been associated with adverse health conditions, one of them being neurological disorders. Now, again, over here, the lawyers and or the Bistrians are talking about them being a model for the industry. Well, I don't know. The things that I read is that possibly, I'm not going to say this outright, but it seems like they were exceeding their registration limits for many years. Their registration limits limits the amount they can accept. Their height of their piles until recently were extremely high. I would like to see their rainwater conduit and how they prevent it from filtering through the pile. I'd like to know more about that. But these activities are inherently dangerous. Sand mining, mulching, and composting have a detrimental effect on groundwater, and as such, it becomes imperative to regularly test groundwater beneath these industries to determine if a public health crisis is unfolding. And I'm going to repeat that. A public health crisis is unfolding. The legislation by the town to test groundwater at these locations is an important but prudent step towards protecting our water resources and public health. And I want to extend my thanks to the town supervisor and the town board for having the wisdom to establish this legislation. And thank you again. And that's about the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for calling today, Frank. It's good to hear from you. We go to the next caller, please, Jason.
Absolutely, Mr. Supervisor. I just want to double check two numbers. Want to make sure that they wanted to talk on this or the stop sign. Just gonna unmute for a second. Hello, caller ending 2832. Did you want to talk on the groundwater protection or the stop sign?
No, just the stop sign.
All right, 100%. Thank you very much. And going to the next caller, and it was hello, caller ending 17151. I just wanted to see groundwater or stop sign.
Oh, this.
Hello?
No, the must mining.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? One more time.
Yes, I'd like to speak on this resolution for the mining.
Okay, thank you very much. Please state your name for the board.
Hi, good morning. My name is Adrienne Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. I hope you all are well. We are testifying today to strongly support this new testing program for sand mines. This bill is a necessity. We have seen throughout Long Island, as an organization that has worked for 38 years to protect Long Island's groundwater, we have seen, unfortunately, some bad actors in the sand mining industry. And it's important to remember, you're not writing this law for the good actors, you're writing this law for the bad actors, who unfortunately do exist. It's not what we take out of sand mines that pollutes the groundwater, it's what is put back in to those sand mines that pollutes groundwater. Such things as mulch, construction and demolition debris, and other materials that should not be and are not allowed. So, we've heard from some sand mines who say that they're good actors. That's great. But the idea of this bill is not only to detect groundwater pollution, but it is to deter groundwater pollution, because the facilities will know that there's an independent testing regime that is ongoing. That is the significance of this bill. And those that tell you that the DEC plays a rigorous regulatory role are frankly hallucinating. The DEC's regulatory role when it comes to sand mining is gravely anemic. And if you had the time and you want to look at all of those sand mine inspection reports, from the over almost 24 sand mines located on Long Island, every sand mine report is perfect, according to the DEC. Could you imagine that? An industry such as large and vast as the sand mining industry on Long Island always receive perfect reports from the regulatory agency. That's incredible and difficult to believe. And in fact, it's not true. So let's also go on to this. You heard comments, unfortunately, that the state's preparing a comprehensive and robust study. False. As was previously stated, this robust study is voluntary. So I don't know how robust that is. I've written to the DEC, testified to the DEC, requested that they require sand mines to participate, not beg sand mines to participate. In addition, this robust study is not going to use any new data. They're going to be looking at existing monitoring wells, which may or may not be in the right place now. The wells were put in before, they wouldn't say what levels, what screening levels they were looking at, what depths. It just is not, this study is, unfortunately, we were hoping for a good study, but it looks like the study will be a complete sham. So you cannot count on, and I don't say that lightly, and I actually like the DEC, but with the sand mining activities, it's just not doing the regulatory work that we need and deserve to be done. Also, one thing I would just ask you to add is as groundwater data becomes available from the monitoring wells, that it's housed or placed somewhere on your website so that can be made publicly available and people know where to look for it. And the last thing I want to say, one of the things we've seen that from bad actors in the sand mining industry is that they will work to fill up the deep holes with things like mulch and construction and demolition debris. And you've heard others testify on the groundwater impact of mulch. It's pretty critical. The Horseblock Road study that was done by Suffolk County Health Department and the New York State DEC found not only elevated levels of manganese, but they found incredibly record high levels. So for instance, the drinking water standard is 400 milligrams per liter, and they were finding up to 30,000, 35,000, 38,000 at one mulching facility. That's a lot of contamination. In addition, this was a little glossed over, but they also found elevated levels of alpha radiation and gamma radiation. And, some of the speakers described it as naturally occurring. All right, it's naturally occurring, but it's unnatural for it to occur at those levels. That's what makes it toxic and dangerous to the public health. That's why it's being regulated. So we want to thank East Hampton for proposing this legislation and this new regulatory program. It is a necessity. We hope that other towns follow through. And we're happy to offer, any additional input. We've been looking here at CC at sand mining for the last decade throughout Long Island, and it is in desperate need of genuine, authentic regulations and monitoring so we could protect the aquifer system and make Long Island's groundwater safe and sustainable for generations to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to comment today, Adrienne. Be well.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Sorry, cut her off too soon.
Jason, can we go to the next caller, please?
Absolutely. Hello, caller 8764. You're on the air.
I'll say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to make some very brief I'd like to make some very brief comments because this is certainly not my area of expertise. I think
please state your name for the record.
Okay, I'll go more slowly. This is David Buddha. Good afternoon. How are you?
Thank you. I can hear you good now. Thanks, David.
Okay. I I just want to add some very brief comments because this is not my area of expertise, although it certainly is my area of grave concern. Everyone that drinks water should be concerned, and that's not just all of us humans, but everyone, all animals, and plants. I would like to just say that the town, I certainly appreciate the comments from Mr. Patrick Bistrian's representatives. I truly hope that he is a sterling example of being a good steward and doing everything the right way and being not just a good actor, but an exemplary actor in the field. But clearly there are other businesses in town just next door, although it's a very much separate business and within the same family. We have the gravel and sand pit, which no one has spoken about today. That is obviously a major factor in business that needs to be monitored. The town's proposed regulations, which have been spurred on by citizens such as Frank Riena, encouraging you to do so and bring this process to fruition, I think is highly needed. And let me just say that from my understanding of active mining, composting, and mulching sites, probably one of the biggest existing sites hasn't been mentioned today, and that is, of course, the town's own mulching and composting site. I don't know what protective measures the town has undertaken to make that a sterling example of good stewardship for the environment, but I hope that the same regulations that will apply to the private sector will be applied by the town to its own facility. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, one more thing. I would like to speak later on in public comment. Thank you very much.
Stay on the line. Thanks for calling, David. And the town facility is ringed with multiple test wells and is monitored multiple times a year, I believe quarterly. Do we have any other callers on the line?
We have two more callers on the line, but they were there for public comment. I just would like to just double check to make sure that if they would like to talk on this or the stop sign additionally. That's all.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
All right. And I'm just going to go unmute them right now. Hello, caller 4408. Do you still want to just do public comment, or do you want to talk on any of these other topics right now?
No, it's a topic unrelated to what's being discussed now.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you on public comment. And let's see. All right. 7. Let me just go unmute this person one more time. Let's try to get this. Hello, caller.
7334.
Okay. Do you want to talk on this, or is there, or the stop sign?
No, I'm here for public comment.
All right, just wanted to double check. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Supervisor, we've gone through the list of callers, and we're good.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Carol, if you'd please go on to the next hearing notice.
Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 16th at 11 a.m. or as soon after this matter may be heard to consider all comments in relationship to a proposed amendment to Chapter 240, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 24058, Schedule 8, stop intersections of the East Hampton Town Code to place stop signs at various intersections in town to enhance public safety. An amendment to Chapter 240, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 24058, stop intersections to provide for stop signs on various roads within the town of East Hampton at Wheelock Walk at its intersection with Post Street, Settlement Court at its intersection with Mile Hill Road, CV Square Road at its intersection with Mile Hill Road, North Pass Road at its intersection with Bering East Road, Park Street at its intersections with Harbor Boulevard, President Street, and its intersections with Harbor Boulevard, Delavan Street at its intersection with Harbor Boulevard, and also at Bryan Street at its intersections with Harbor Boulevard.
Thank you, Carol. Jason, can we go to the callers that are calling in for this public hearing, please?
Absolutely. Okay, caller ending 2832. You are on the air.
Yes, I'm calling from and on behalf of the settlement at Northwest Property Owners Association. We
Could you state your name for the board, please?
Yes, my name is Kristen Zeff. We specifically requested the stop signs at the intersections of Mile Hill Road and Settlement Court and Phoebe Scoy Road and Mile Hill Road. Unfortunately, I was coming along down Mile Hill Road this summer with my children in the car, and someone completely blew through the stop sign at Phoebe Scoy, and they ended up in the woods, and we were very narrowly missed from a very bad collision. And we've noticed an increasing amount of traffic, especially going to the beach at Mile Hill Road. This area is used quite a bit by pedestrians and cyclists as well as motorists, and we just feel that it would increase the safety of the area by placing those stop signs there.
Thank you. Can you please state your name for the record again? It was inaudible due to audio problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Kristen Zeff.
Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate you taking the time to comment and bring this to our attention.
All right. And I'll go on to the next caller. We don't have any callers that are on there for the stop sign, but I'll just double check on one or two numbers with your permission.
Please, Jason.
All right. And hello, caller ending 6450. I just wanted to double check if you wanted to talk on this or not.
No, thank you. Just listening.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And let's see. That was that. That was for that. I don't see anything else over here for this in particular. No.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. And that concludes our public hearings for today. We'll move on to the public portion, where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. Again, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
And I'll unmute the first caller.
Oh, hi. I think I'm back. This is
Yes,
Cheryl Richer.
Hi,
Dan?
Cheryl.
Hi. First of all, happy holidays to everyone. Healthy New Year. Still COVID going on, so hopefully everybody stays healthy. I'm calling about in follow-up to the settlement agreement this past May with Maram Montauk. I sort of took the summer off and didn't hear until right before Thanksgiving holiday that Maram had actually filed a liquor license application with the State Liquor Authority. And I've been waiting to get information foiled from the town, which has not arrived yet. And I was also awaiting to get a copy of the liquor license application, which I got 2 days ago and read last night. So I literally found out about this board meeting about an hour before it started. So I'm trying to get my thoughts collected because this was sort of a last-minute opportunity to touch base with you. Per the settlement agreement, Maram was allowed to keep its pool side bar structure, and the board said that it would not object to it filing for a liquor license for that bar. I think at the time there was discussion about an indoor bar. I was told that Maram said they wanted this in the case of inclement weather, but the settlement said, nope, we're not giving that to you now. You have to go to the planning board. It has to be approved, whatever, and it was sort of deferred. So I was sort of surprised when I got the copy yesterday of the liquor license application, which I know already that they asked for 2 bar licenses. I assumed one of them was going to be for that indoor bar, which I knew they had not gone to the planning board for because I checked with the planning board. And so surprisingly, they actually asked and have a temporary license now for their snack bar. So this is pretty disturbing, on a couple of levels. One, the town only gave them permission to have a license for one bar. That was per the settlement agreement. But also, it opens up the whole can of worms about the CO for the snack bar, which doesn't say explicitly you can't serve alcohol. It says you're a takeout counter for food and beverages. And then, of course, you went to New York State Supreme Court. There was the injunction. The injunction said that they couldn't serve alcohol at the snack bar, that they couldn't have wait service. But all of that is sort of gone now because there was a settlement. So everything that was sort of ongoing because of the injunction is history. And we're sort of back to, what I see as two issues. One, are they allowed to have a second bar? Because the town only gave them permission for the one explicitly. And two, are they prohibited from having a bar at the snack bar because it's not a restaurant, bar, tavern, or any of the other establishments under town code that are allowed to serve alcohol. I've been trying to find out and have been unsuccessful, and there's a lot of urgency to this because they filed in August. The SLA can be having a meeting at any day to decide if they will grant a license, which was rejected, by the way, in December. My community's efforts were successful with the help of the town that filed an objection letter to the 30-day advance notice given by Maram at the time. So I've been trying to find out if, in fact, the town did send an objection letter to the second bar, because that was not part of the settlement and that is not in their CO. And if not, why not? And if not, can this be done ASAP so that the SLA knows that Maram is not authorized to have a second bar? Because it's my understanding that if Maram gets liquor licenses, at that point the town has no ability to have them retracted or prevent them from operating a second, third, fourth, fifth, however many bars they ask for, if the town doesn't object. I mean, it's nice that Surfside Estates Association, we object and they note it, but the town objection is really important as well. And just want to also point out that in their liquor license application, they checked off that they will have music. The settlement agreement says they can't have a DJ or live music, so I'm hoping that they don't blast recorded music really loud at their very zen motel. And the second thing I want to point out is that even though the town has tried to limit the tables directly outside of the snack bar and directly outside of the now approved poolside bar, Maram has told the SLA that they have the ability to have 130 tables and 590 seats to serve guests food, liquor, whatever. So, this is, how they operate, I mean, they really, they build it first and they don't ask permission and then it's too late because it can't be undone. So, maybe my whole rant is unwarranted if I find out that the town has indeed sent a letter objecting. I just didn't want to wait until hearing back and lose the opportunity to get ahead of a potential SLA hearing on the subject. So I'll stop.
Yeah, Cheryl.
I don't know where I am
Cheryl,
minutes-wise.
I appreciate you calling in, and I'm going to defer to our town attorney's office to answer those questions for you. This was a subject of litigation and settlement, and I have not personally seen their recent application to the SLA, so I can't speak to those specifics, but I think the attorney's office can at least address some of those questions that you've brought up today.
Right. I have been emailing Nancy Lynn, and she does not respond. And again, time is of the essence because unfortunately I found out, months after the fact, and I don't have the luxury of weeks or months to wait to get an answer to this. If we want to enforce the settlement agreement.
Right.
So
Understood. Yeah, we do have the town attorney here on the call on the meeting, and as well as David McMaster, Assistant Town Attorney, who was involved with actions and settlement discussions as well. John, can you
Sure.
shed
Well,
some light on the questions raised by Cheryl?
Sure. And I have David here because he was involved in the situation as well. The town provided the SLA with a copy of the agreement that we entered into with Marham, indicating that, and this was quite some time ago, I think, right?
Yeah, so initially they sent in an application in May, and we sent a 30-day letter responding to that first application with our objections. And what happened in response to that was that their attorneys came back and met with John and I and worked out a proposed method of operation that we felt complied with the settlement agreement. And that's what went into the August application. And I respectfully think that the characterization of approving 2 bars is a little bit, it's not fully accurate, because the snack bar is where people go to order their food. And yes, they can get a cocktail with the drink. And then there's the only bar that we've approved that's a bar is the pre-existing poolside bar, which Ann Glennon found was pre-existing bar from before it was destroyed in the fire, going back, I believe, to the 1950s or the 1960s. And not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but bar means bar, and that implies the use of, or the sale of alcohol. There is no indoor bar. They, like any other addition or expansion, they would need to go to planning board to get approval for that, and that's what's specifically in the terms of the settlement agreement. Now, obviously, the town didn't sign off on allowing them to have 500 or whatever the number that you quoted, in the seats at the bar. Now, I don't know if that speaks to just the overall occupancy of the whole hotel or not, but I'm certainly happy to look into that. And I would just say that the current application that they have submitted reflects John Jolnicki and I's discussions with their attorneys, lots of back and forth that was consistent with the terms of the settlement agreement. And
can you address the specific question about music? Because I know that was discussed in settlement.
Sure. They would be eligible to apply for a music entertainment permit like any other group would be, and they have to conform to the rules regarding decibels and for commercial establishments. And I can pull up the specific provision in the settlement agreement, but I don't think that there's anything that's special in the agreement other than that they have to get special event permits if they want to have music there.
But they'd only be eligible under a special event permit. It's not part of their regular practice or business, and it's specifically spelled out in the settlement, correct?
Correct, but they would, like other hotels, and they could apply for a music entertainment permit, I believe.
But it's not something that that's something that'd be reviewed by the town and at the discretion of the town.
Right, discretionary approval.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
So if they, for instance, if they wanted to have a charitable event on the property or something like that, and they wanted to have music, that would be reviewed by the special events committee, and they would decide whether or not it was appropriate. And obviously, if it's a regular practice, it's prohibited and it's no longer special.
Absolutely. They're a hotel.
I understand that that type of music, they can have 4 permits a year. I understand that. What I wasn't sure about was the recorded music, which the settlement agreement, at least the one I read, that's only like 3 pages long, only says that they can't have a DJ or live music. So I wasn't sure if that would, provide them the loophole to just have recorded music ongoing all the time.
Well, I mean, as long as it's under the decibel limit, I don't believe that we can control certainly out during normal business hours, if they have music in the lobby of their hotel or.
Okay. I understood. And the other thing, just to circle back quickly, this discussion after the settlement, where you told them it was okay to serve, drinks from their snack counter, that's a really, really big deal, because that then sort of undermines everything in trying to limit their ability to go in and, market their quote-unquote restaurant, which they continue to call it, to outside guests. I thought the settlement agreement in limiting the size of the bar, limiting the number of servers, limiting the amount of people that could stand there was part of an effort to limit this sort of uncontrolled, public influx to hang out, to go to, to have dinner, to have drinks, to be in a business that they're not in. It's no longer just an amenity for their guests. You let them have drinks served with dinner, it makes it so much more convenient for the whole neighborhood to start going there now.
I have to take issue with the term served, because that's one thing they are not allowed to do from that counter. There's no provision for service,
table
food,
service,
table service at all. It's a place where you can buy packaged
At the
food.
counter, they're handed with their styrofoam box. At the counter, they're handed a box of food, but they can get alcohol with that at the snack bar.
Cheryl, I'm we're happy to follow up with you on some of these questions offline.
Fine.
And we appreciate you bringing this up, and we'll work through it with you and get some answers and some clarity about the issues that you've raised and the pending term, which I'm not aware of and haven't seen. I'm not really sure what you're referring to. I'm a little at a disadvantage on it, but we're happy to follow up with you offline.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, and have a happy holiday and New Year.
Okay, I'll mute the next caller.
Thank you, Jason.
Hi. And do I have the
yes,
the microphone?
You have the microphone.
Yeah,
Can you please state your name for the board, please?
Sure. My name is Paul Fiandella. And 8 years ago, Larry Cantwell, Mario Moeller, and myself met before he was to become supervisor to discuss the formation of a committee to look into a new senior community center for this town. I was appointed the secretary of that committee, and I'm making these remarks based on that experience. First, I just want to point out to the board that there's a lot of very interesting statistics out there. These come from the New York Times yesterday and from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Basically, 75%. These are their figures, not mine, but I may be incorrect on this, just as they may. 75% of all the deaths from COVID have been among seniors. The New York Times reported yesterday that in practical terms, since COVID has struck, 1 out of every 100 seniors has died from it. And we are going to be building a new senior community center. The experience in New York State at the beginning of this epidemic, we found that nursing homes, there was a large concentration of seniors in them that were dying. Because those facilities were never established to deal with a pandemic. We're about to embark upon contracts with companies to, look into how this senior community center will be built, what it'll have in it, and you have some kind of a plan for public input on that, which I will remark on later. But I want to draw your attention to what I consider the biggest problem here that cannot be overlooked in the design. We know that the SARS virus, this particular SARS virus, we wear masks so that the large water droplets that would, when you cough or sneeze, won't be projected onto somebody else and cause them to be infected. That's why we wear masks. Some of these masks make an attempt to to contain aerosols. Now, aerosols are basically what happens when you breathe. Every time you breathe, you're expelling air filled with moisture. The latest version of the virus, the latest mutation, appears to spread by aerosols very well. That's apparently why it is so contagious. Now, the other method of spreading of viruses in general, like cold viruses, is surfaces. Now, we haven't reached that point. But essentially where we have reached is we now have enough people unvaccinated, enough places on the planet where people have had no vaccine or do nothing to prevent any spread, so that the virus continues to mutate. And that means that it only has a 2% death rate at present. This is 2%, and all the damage you've seen has been done. The plague in the 1340s wiped out 40 to 60% of the population of cities in Europe. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with this virus as it continues to mutate, but it looks like it's trying to become more contagious. If it becomes more contagious, then just wearing the mask isn't going to be good enough. So when this center is built, I would strongly recommend that you put into the contract at the beginning that whatever agency is going to be planning this out must look into air filtration systems. In other words, you want to put in a heat and air conditioning system, an air movement system in the unit, which filters out as much of the virus that is airborne as possible. Now, there are two technologies that are being used. One of them is fairly experimental. So your contractor, your planner is going to have to start really looking hard at what is being done with this. And one of them is ultraviolet C, in which the air is moved through a chamber where the air is exposed to ultraviolet C radiation, which kills the virus. The other is this kind of filter that you have in your furnace, but with a much higher level of filtering out, but it doesn't work as well. So I want to urge the board to insist that this be part of the contract, that you require the designer to look into air handling systems that will filter out the virus in this facility, so that we don't get into a situation where the virus gets more contagious via aerosols, the masks don't keep it from spreading, and you put all the seniors into one place where essentially they can suffer the same fate as the seniors in nursing homes did at the beginning of all of this. So that's my basic comment on that. And because you are going to be, apparently you're going to be voting on contracts, so you've got to get this in front of them. If you leave this just to, just do it any way you want and don't make it a priority, you'll just get a standard air movement system. And all that system may do is just circulate virus all over the facility instead of actually filtering it out. So I think you need some really good representations from the designers, that they've looked into this issue, thoroughly researched it. These are the systems that are available. And frankly, the contract has to have the funds in there to be able to do that. Now, the second thing I want to discuss with you is input. I'm talking to the town board. So the second thing is what kind of input, you're going to get from the public. And I think here that you need to get a much broader amount of input. And there's two reasons for this. First reason is this. You're talking about a centralized facility. You're talking the current facility today at the senior center, there were maybe 40 people. You've got maybe 8,000 seniors in the town, which means that all of those other people are not coming to this facility. Now, one of the things I think we should try to realize at this point is that the town really has an aging in place population. In other words, people live in their homes. They try to live their lives out there. They don't make use of these facilities right now. So you have to think about that in terms of, if we have a significant aging in place population, what are their needs? And are any of those needs going to be established in this community center? Now, during the pandemic, what you did is you delivered food at home to people. That nutrition program at the senior center now is very popular among the small group of people that use it. you have to think about, okay, what are we going to do for this much larger population? How are we either going to attract them to a central facility, or how are we going to facilitate aging in place? Which means, what kind of home care are we going to provide in the future? Along these lines, I think you have to have people from the EMS group in the town, the Emergency Medical Services group. They have a lot of direct experience with seniors, what their problems are. They take them to the hospital. They know a lot more about what is going on with seniors than bureaucrats would, or that people with very limited experience and contact would. And you do want to get their input. You also want to get input from the medical community. These are people who care for seniors. They know what their problems are. And that brings me to the final issue. I do believe that the focus on the senior center is far too narrow for what we're dealing with. It's narrow in the sense of it treats the problem as a branch of welfare. And that's probably because of the funding structure. You know, you're not getting funding from the federal government to do, assisted living care in homes to any great extent. The country as a whole hasn't got a real good plan, or any plan, frankly, for how it's going to care for the massive number of seniors that are coming along here. And frankly, the town really isn't prepared, doesn't have that experience. So you have to say to yourself, should this facility be built as an adjunct to the existing welfare services in the town, or should there be some other focus? And for my way of looking at things, the only way this facility can be successful and actually attract seniors in the community and deliver services to them is to look at it as an adjunct to the medical care in the town. This is going to be a place where people go if they feel they want to go. If you just concentrate on a very small part of the population that has no choice but to go there, you're going to develop a narrower set of services. I don't know whether your facility has, for example, something which I've seen all over the country in these facilities that have already been built and where people have 10 or 15 years of experience with advanced senior care. You know, they have a nurse's station right in the facility because they know this is where seniors congregate. This is where they will discuss problems if there's somebody available to talk to them. So we by making it an adjunct to welfare, you know, these are not going to be people who need that level of support. There will be a large number that do, but you will exclude all the people along the way. And I think here you have to understand, most people will age in their homes in East Hampton. The time when you will see them coming to the senior center like the one that exists today is when they lose a spouse, they can't cook for themselves anymore, and they find this to be a place where they can meet some people that they can relate to. There's a social element. Now, depending on what you do with this facility, in most communities, they have a very extensive volunteer program where, you know, seniors who are talented, you have doctors, lawyers, you have ballerinas, you have people in the arts, you have people with tremendous skills. And rather than say, well, you know, you're old and you really don't have much to offer, you can actually use their skills and give them a place where they can present them to the community. In addition to that, cultural events. You're all aware that the library uses its downstairs space, and it has some events there. If you go to Southampton Library, you'll see a huge range of events going on there. If you put on cultural events for seniors, then people will come. So the place has to be basically broader in its outlook. And for that reason,
we appreciate.
I'll be short. I'll be finished in a second. I really do think separating the Diane's office, her office facilities from this facility is something that you need to do. Diane has her own area of operation. In most towns, those are separate facilities. I am surprised that she still has to have this little building over here to work out of. You were building new facilities at Town Hall. I think you should consolidate her operations into central facilities because not everybody going to the senior center will be applying for all these other services that she offers. And basically, seniors are in a different category. It's aging. Okay, that's what it is. It is aging. You have to deal with aging. You don't have to look at every senior as a potential
I'm going to ask that you wrap up because we're not going to be able to get all the input from the senior center. And we do appreciate, the comments you made. And this is just the beginning of the discussion about community needs and programming for the senior center. We appreciate you calling in today. It's good to hear from you. Do we have any other callers on the line?
Yes, we do. I'm muting now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller 8764.
Good afternoon.
Oh, hey, David.
Good afternoon again. This is David Buda. I'll spell my last name, B-U-D-A.
Thank you, David.
I wanted to discuss a resolution that appears at the tail end of today's agenda. I know it's a follow-up to the discussion at the work session concerning equipment for a temporary emergency communication tower to be located somewhere in the Springs. I've been trying to follow this issue all along, and I still have some continuing unknowns and concerns. I just wanted to point out that my understanding of what you need to do right now and what it would cost was kind of blown out of the water when I saw that there was a $428,000 price tag to be applied to the equipment for what looks like one temporary tower. And this, although the resolution, which is now number 1420, isn't specific, I assume this refers to what your discussion of a proposed cow on an 88-foot county-supplied stanchion, where Eddie said that would have, because of the inability to host microwave antennas on that type of facility, it would basically have one or more whip antennas at the top. So I was quite surprised to see that for this one facility, you're looking to expend over $400,000 for equipment. Now, bear in mind, Ed said that the equipment would be reusable on a permanent facility if and when that is approved down the line. The reason why I'm really concerned about whether you have a need to authorize the expenditure for the equipment now before you finalize the process of deciding on whether you have a need for and a location for a cell on wheels in the Springs is based on my review of the July 13th, 2021 presentation that Mr. Schnell provided to the town board, explaining what we have and what we need, which is we currently have 5 legacy sites on a trunking system, which are fed into from other facilities such as the town police department and the village emergency communication center. And the proposal is, as you all know, to add 3 new sites. The Gator site in Montauk, a northwest brush dump on Stephen Hans Pass, and somewhere in the Springs. I looked at, and in that presentation that Mr. Schnell presented, there is a display of the current emergency communications coverage with the existing 5 sites. If one looks at that very closely, one does see clearly coverage gaps in various places in Montauk that would be serviced by the Gator site. One does see some coverage gaps in the Northwest Woods, which would be satisfied by erecting a tower, or the tower's up, a 185-foot tower is already up, but you don't have any equipment yet on the tower at the brush dump. And those sites would be covered. But as best I can tell by looking at this coverage map that's part of your record, there are no currently any coverage gap locations anywhere in the Springs, with the possible exception of one tiny area near 3 Mile Harbor, which is near where I live, which would be covered, by the way, by the Northwest Woods brush site. So what I'm trying to understand is, what is the need for a new emergency communication tower in the Springs if there are currently no existing coverage gaps? Now, the answer might be that Mr. Schnell has basically provided a proposal to create a backhaul link between the 8 towers that would exist, so that you would have a line of sight communication from Springs all the way to the Gator site in Montauk or to the recycling center site in Montauk, and that would provide for the redundancy to, in case of a calamity and one of the towers went out, you could go around and provide the trunking service through the backhaul. Well, I'm not sure that that's worth the price, but right now your immediate decision is your resolution to 1420 to approve $400,000 of equipment, and I wish someone would explain when you get to it, either in response to my call or when you get to discussing the resolution, what exactly that is. It's obviously a lot more than a whip antenna and some power equipment and some communication system. And is it truly necessary at this point in time to erect a temporary emergency communication facility on a cell on wheels, which obviously has nothing to do with cell phone service? Is it necessary? Is it going to provide any benefit in the immediate time? And is it something that can be serviced rather by going ahead now without delay to installing the town's emergency communication equipment on the town Northwest Woods brush site? Because that definitely would eliminate the gaps in the western part of the town, according to the coverage map that was presented to you back on July 13th. So those are my comments. I would like you to explain what exactly you're buying if you adopt Resolution 1420, the need for it, and of course is it for 3 sites or is it for 1 site? It sounds like it's for 1 site, and it certainly sounds like a lot of equipment for an 88-foot cow located somewhere in the Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I think, I believe actually Eddie covered this in his presentation about the cow. Really, as you said, there's no gap in coverage in Springs. The problem is capacity, and as I understood it, and there is no backhaul additionally. So that's why the permanent tower in Springs is being sought. The temporary tower relates to solving some of that capacity issue. It won't solve the backhaul link, as you said, because there's no microwave dish that's going to be placed on it. It's too low to do line of sight backhaul to the other sites. And this equipment that is being purchased will help solve, I think it was 3 different channels of capacity, additional channels. Now, I don't have a technical background or spreadsheet on the actual equipment that's going to be installed. I will defer to Eddie on that, but essentially that is what's happening. It is necessary to have a site north of Woodbine, as I understood it, in order to be able to meet that additional capacity requirement and coverage, and that's why it's going there. We wanted to go ahead and make the purchase of this equipment and get some of it installed so that it's ready to be transferred once there's a permanent site that is built. That would round out the additional channels that will be needed on a permanent site. And I believe we're close to authorizing that license agreement with American Tower for the permanent site at the Girl Scout camp.
And if I may piggyback on what the supervisor said, it is, there are coverage gaps in Springs for emergency communications as it stands now with the towers that are already there and the emergency equipment that's already been installed. The $428.5 thousand is for equipment for the Springs emergency communications equipment, but it also covers software and routers and whatnot for the entire site. We have bonded $11.1 million, and as you can see, there's a bond account listed. So this is money that's already been bonded for and was expected to be expended.
Thank you for calling, David.
Okay, if I could just let me just make one comment because it needs to be clarified somewhere down the line. I heard Ed Schnell's presentation to you several times, and what I thought he said was the capacity and reliability of the current existing system as it's up and running on the 5 legacy towers is much improved, and he said that the additional tower was to address, and the COW was to address coverage in the springs, which frankly doesn't comport with the coverage map that has been prepared and presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Do we have any other callers on the line?
We have one previous caller who's been listening in. I'm just going to double check with them. And hello, caller ending 6899. Just wanted to double check it and see if you wanted to comment for public comment.
No, thank you.
Okay, and that is it.
Okay, at this point then we can move on to our resolutions being offered. Kathy, I believe you have the resolution to begin.
Starting with Resolution 2021-1374, it's approval of the warrant. Claims total $10,724,546.49. Utility warrant totals $57,164.71.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1375 is a bond up to $1.8 million for design plans and specs for the new senior center on Abraham's Path.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Leaf.
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby.
Aye.
Councilman Bragman.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried.
Great. Resolution 2021-1376 is to schedule the 2022 organizational meeting that will be held January 4th, 2022 at 11 a.m.
Second.
Want to note that I think the date at the end has to be corrected. It says December 18th, 2020.
Second as amended.
Oh, okay.
I think that does, yeah. It's really not it's 1 week after posting. I think we can just take the date out.
This was probably.
Looks like it's a hearing notice.
Right, it's COVID.
Yeah.
Looks like the COVID disclaimer.
Right.
So where does it end, John?
So it would end right after the first email, where Carol's first email.
Okay.
And
Second as amended with the removal of the last paragraph or sentences after Carol's email.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Well,
We have a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1377 is the retirement payout balance for Jean Hamilton. On Resolution 2021-817, Jean Hamilton's gross payout upon retirement was in the amount of $202,652.74. That was split into 2 payments. So the second payment will be made on the January 7th payroll in the amount of $51,852.74.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
2021-1378 is a budget modification for the YMCA Rec Center in the amount of $38,200. This is for the replacement of the exterior doors, and as I said, it's coming from the YMCA's Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
2021-1379 is to accept proposal EH 2021-103 for professional architectural and engineering services for the new senior center. And after the discussion we had at Tuesday's work session, the selection committee recommended R2 architecture.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1380 is to approve the door installations at the YMCA with P&M Doors and Hardware which are on contract, and that again totals $38,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. David?
Yes, I'd like to offer Resolution 2021-1381. It's a SEPTA proposal for the Maidstone Park comfort stations for septic upgrades. We received proposals from LK McLean, dated December 2nd, 2021. It's not to exceed $32,800 for the 2 comfort stations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1382 is a septic proposal for South Lake Montauk Comfort Station septic upgrade. It's part of our priority list. We received a proposal from LK McLean dated December 3rd, 2021, and it's not to exceed $12,000 for the scope of work.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1383 is a septic bid EH 21043 for the purchase and delivery of jet skis for 2021. This was a rebid number 3 from Maximum Motorsports. The 2 purchases are going to be totaling the amount of $18,199, coming from 4 separate funding lines for the total of each.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1384, authorized payment to PSE&G for an outstanding 2020 invoice in the amount of $94.25 for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1385, authorized payment PSE&G Long Island for the Parks and Recreation Department for an outstanding 2020 invoice in the amount of $129.96.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1386, authorized payment PSE&G for an outstanding 2018 invoice in the amount of $21.15.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1387, authorized payment for McKeeson. This is for medical supplies for an outstanding 2020 invoice in the amount of $43.44.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1388 is authorized employment reimbursement and the total amount of $175 per test per employee for drone certification to various employees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1389 is the extended agreement for audit services of the CPF fund. This came from the RFP for EH 2018-107 to Cullen and Dankowski LLP. They'll be retained to audit the 2021 CPF funds financial statements at a cost not to exceed $10,400.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1390 is EH 21029 change order for protective fencing for the Accabonac Harbor Stormwater Abatement Rain Garment installation. This will go to Green Velvet Landscapes. This is for split rail fence to be located on Parsons Place and Shipyard Lane, not to exceed the amount of $17,280.
Second.
Making the total contract $90,955.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried.
1391 is the extension of the 2020 Round 1 grant extensions for 51 South Edgemere IA system. This was approved for IA septic upgrade on August 8th of 2020 for a septic upgrade. I do need to make one change on here. It is in the 4th paragraph under 51 South Edgemere. The pollutants actually input into Fort Pond and not South Lake Montauk. And this is an extension for up to 1 year.
Second
as amended?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1392, this is a Water Quality 2020 Round 2 grant extension. Again, this is 4 grant extensions that were given on November 5th, 2020 for Crow's Nest, St. Luke's Church, and the Village of Sag Harbor. This extension will be for 1 more calendar year.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1393 is authorized the purchase of a turnkey building for the Westlake Comfort Station. This will be coming from a proposal off the Sourcewell at a cost of $412,708, coming from the Public Restroom Corporation in a proposal dated November 12th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1394 is to accept a proposal from the Burial Ground Preservation Group for conservation and restoration of the John P. Parsons Cemetery. Proposal was dated December 13th, 2021, and the amount was for $7,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1395 is to accept proposal from the Burial Ground Preservation Group for restoration treatment of the Daniel and Metable Edwards Cemetery. Apologize. This is located at 90 Old Stone Highway and at the Spring School entrance. The proposal is dated December 13th, 2021. It's in the amount of $1,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Some names just are not used anymore. Some of those archaic names from the past, we just don't see those.
Yeah. Resolution 2021-1396 is scheduled a public hearing for the grant of a scenic and conservation easement, Karen Minor Romanoff Living Trust. The grantor is Karen Minor Romanoff. As trustee of the Karen Minor Romanoff Living Trust, it is a scenic and conservation easement at 42 Hedges Bank Drive in East Hampton, and the reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals. The public hearing will be held on Thursday, January the 6th at 2 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1397 is to release security for Urban Renewal Parcel 21 in EH3. It's for 30 Muir LLC, care of Ivan Burmo, and it is located at 30 Muir Boulevard, East Hampton. The amount is $13,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1398 is to extend agreement for RFP EH 2020-108 professional management services for Camp Hero wastewater systems to CMJ Graywater. Senior purchasing agent is authorized to issue purchase orders to CM Graywater in accordance with the town's bid specifications and the bid submissions of the contractor for a period of 1 year to be effective January 1st through December 31st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1399 is to reappoint Marion Zucker to the Housing Authority as a member for a 5-year term.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Resolution 2021-1400 is to increase the hours for full-time employee Tricia Ozuski. She had the option of doing a 30, 35, or 40-hour week for full-time status, and this resolution sets that at 40-hour per week, effective December 20th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2021-1401 is in reference to snow plowing at the East Hampton Airport. It extends the services of Southampton Excavation and Site Development for 2 additional years, and sets various prices for snowfalls ranging from 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, or 12 plus inches, ranging from $99.75 to $29,000.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 1402 is to appoint seasonal snow removal drivers to the Highway Department for the 2021 and 22 season, an hourly rate of $30 per hour, effective December 1st. Matthew Fay and John Hurtado.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 1403 is appoint full-time automotive equipment operator to the Highway Department, John Brown, at an hourly rate of $21.16, $44,024.45 annually, effective December 15th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 1404 is notice of retirement and reinstatement to part-time position at Michael's, and that is at a part-time rate, hourly rate of $38.86. His retirement payout calculations are scheduled for December 21st meeting.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 1405 is to award department head bonuses for exceptional service to the town. One-time bonuses are $3,000 each for the following departments heads: Scott Wilson, Keith Lieben, Kim Shaw, and John Dunn. We very much appreciate your excellent effort on behalf of the town people.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 1406 is a notary renewal fee for Captain Christopher Anderson in the amount of $60.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 1407 is a budget modification for the town attorney's office, and that's increasing of appropriated surplus in the amount of $100,000 to outside professional in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 1408 is budget modification for the town attorney's office. It's moving $2,350 from longevity, $4,600 from travel conference dues, and $5,892 from New York State retirement to part-time salaries for a total of $12,842.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. Resolution 1409 is a budget modification for fuel, moving from various budget lines and amounts, a total of $68,980 to fuel motor vehicle lines in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Budget modification, workers' compensation, moving a total of $65,000 from various lines to workers' compensation in the same amount. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1411 is to amend budget accounts for the East Hampton Police Department employees, and that is moving from lines from the B fund where they were formerly located in the budget to the A fund accounts, and this is for Devin Toya and Ed Schnell.
Second.
All in favor? And that's for the upcoming calendar year, effective January 1st, 2022. Resolution 1412 is to authorize payment of past due invoice for Series Systems Group Incorporated. The outstanding past invoices total an amount of $227.88.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1413 is an auction of surplus equipment. This is the sale of surplus highway department equipment, and the authorization goes to Auctions International Incorporated.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 1414 is the extended contract EH 20037 annual generator maintenance contract for Commander Power Systems, and that is for a period of 1 year, effective February 1st of 2022 through January 31st of 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1415 is a notice to bidders EH 21046 annual contract for glass replacement and repair for work autos, trucks, and equipment. 2022 bid available December 23rd, 2021, and the bid is due back on January 13th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 1416 is notice to bidders EH 22001 Star Island Dock Rehabilitation. The bid's available January 6th, 2022. The bid's due back on February 17th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1417 is to approve demolition and disposal of a vessel. And that is for Keith Grimes to demolish and dispose of the vessel at a cost not to exceed $14,881. Resolve the monthly storage charges in the amount of $2,700 together with the cost of demolition disposal shall be paid to concurrence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 1418 is approved disposal fees. Calverton Materials. Calverton Materials will accept such materials at $20 per cubic yard. And that's to be paid from a sanitation budget line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 1419 is revised resolution number 2021-1247. Increased cap Jameson McWilliams, Esquire, Crouch McWilliams, PLLC. And that is to increase to a total of $18,000 by amount of $9,000 for a total of $18,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 2021-1420 is to approve the purchase of equipment for temporary tower installation. And as a result, Town Board hereby authorizes the purchase of equipment set forth in the August 18th, 2021 specifications pursuant to New York State contract totaling $428,556.65.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 2021-1421 is authorized agreement Microsoft Enterprise, EH Town Police Department, and Marine Patrol, and that is resolved that the amounts not to exceed $27,144 for the period commencing January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1422 is to ratify the stipulation between the town and the CSEA. That's
Sorry.
so there's a stipulation settlement and authorize the supervisor to sign the same.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Are there any other resolutions to be offered?
Do not.
I'll entertain a motion to close. I don't think we have any exec items, do we, John?
Yeah, do we have any exec? I don't have.
We don't have any
No.
exec items today, so we'll adjourn the meeting.
Great.
Entertain a
Okay.
motion.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Thanks very much, everyone. Stay safe and be well.